Okay, it's hard to begin. Okay, so this all takes place in, well, it must have been February of 2013. Whenever the giant blizzard was. You can probably look it up. It would have been a Friday night. I was booked at this art gallery to play a solo acoustic show. Now, at this point, I was right in the middle of writing the song cycle. I was at number 13 or 12 or 11, or I was playing with the structure and order of the songs at this point. And I decided a few songs ago to take the song cycle in the narrative direction that it was kind of insisting on. But I wasn't sure of anything yet. I had a couple songs that I'd written that winter, and I was like, well, some of these are in the cycle, and some of them aren't, and I was kind of unsure how everything would shake out. But this song that I'm telling you about now turned out to be number 12. Now, like I said, I was booked to play a solo show at this art gallery in Great Point. Friday night at 9 p.m. slot. Now, I mean, it eventually ended up snowing like something like 12, 14 inches or something like that. During the day, reading the weather at work, I could tell it was going to be pretty bad. It was supposed to start around 5 or so and pretty much go all night. I got in touch with the guy who ran the place, and he said, "Yeah, the show's still on." So I was like, "Fuck it," I didn't know how many people would go, but whatever. I'll play to an empty room. I'm not just gonna bail on the gig. And sure enough, it snowed like a motherfucker. I left my apartment, and it was already snowing, and it was snowing pretty hard, and by the time I had gotten off the train, I was trudging my ass through the back streets of Greenpoint from a G train. I went the wrong way, I had to turn around, and by the time I finally found McGinnis, I was running late, but, whatever, I got there around 8:30 or so for this 9 o'clock gig. There were maybe, 10, 15 people there, but this is like a huge 2-level art space, and there were bands booked upstairs, and the solo acts are going to be in the smaller, but still pretty big space downstairs. So I get there, and the guy said, well, the 8 and 10 p.m. solo acts didn't show, so you can pretty much play however long you want. I was like, okay. And, he said, have all the beer you want, and just play however long you want to play. So I said, fine. So I started playing, and it was going okay. There were maybe 3, 4, 5 people there at any given time. Sometimes 1 or 2, sometimes more. With people were cycling in and out, but it was cool. There was all this art on the wall, and I liked playing there. And there was this big window by the stage, and it was snowing the whole time. It was pretty serene and awesome. You could look out, and the snow was just coming down like crazy. A friend of mine who actually lives in the area came by and hung out for, I don't know, maybe a half hour or so. But as the night went on, the people who came early left because of the snow, and no new audience were coming to replace them, and my buddy, God bless him, had to leave, and everything was kind of felt like it was winding down, but things were getting all muffled and quiet as this snow tends to do. Now eventually the bouncer guy who was standing by the door, he went upstairs. So here I am, I'm about an hour into my set, and now the room is just completely empty. This huge open space filled every inch, literally, if you've ever been there, you know what I'm talking about. Literally every inch of the wall filled with art. I'm just playing a couple of my songs in this empty room, and and kind of just, letting myself, I remember I was like, I'm enjoying this moment, and it's something, because there's always so much to think about on stage, and I was like, it's something I get to do so rarely, to be in the present moment and really enjoying playing music. So at some point during this, I started playing this kind of G, E minor, D thing that was going to be either song 12 or 13. Now, in the narrative at this point, Maxwell's been kind of fooled by this time-space break and is resentful for what he feels as being punished by God by being trapped forever with this kind of contextless nostalgia haunting him. And the next song was going to be the Maxwell's realization that I am in the shit. These timelines have split. Half my consciousness is in Cleveland with its thumb up its ass, and I have to not ignore this anymore. I didn't have like the whole picture of it yet, but regardless, that's neither here nor there. So I was playing this like G minor thing and improvising some melodies and some lyrics, but basically it came down to this. Now, when I had the picture of what it was going to be, that kind of wakes Maxwell up out of this whole fog, I related it back to something that happened in my life, where, well, it was this event that happened to me on the corner of 93rd Street and Broadway. I must have been about 24 or so. There was this confrontation I had with this person, and as a result, myself. It was one of those moments I'll remember for the rest of my life. It was one of those things where you kind of felt yourself changed, and you're changed forever, just on the account of what occurred and what you realized about yourself. And it was so intense, and I can see right now. I can see it even today, and so formative. It was such like a landmark realization, and like a signpost, watershed, whatever, kind of drawing a line between my early 20s, where I was kind of just fucking around, and the line between that and coming into adulthood, my acceptance of adulthood. But this confrontation, as formative as it was something I never really dealt with, in the sense that I never really shared it with anyone. I never really talked about it, and it was just kind of this thing that kind of, this impression that it kind of came into my mind every once in a while, but I never really thought about what it meant. But when I was thinking about the thing that jars Maxwell into this state of awakeness, it was so similar to my feeling and the way I was processing this thing, this kind of the eureka moment. It was like a eureka moment, and they were similar, in degree, if not kind, of understanding this process, accepting and kind of feeling yourself mold right there, instantaneous. So I started telling this story about 93rd Street to this empty room. And I was playing these chords and just kind of talking over it. This story I had never really told anyone or dealt with in any way. But now I had something to refer it to. So I tell this story, and that was song 12. Song 12 happened in this room. Song 12 exists, but it exists as a series of sound waves in the past. And that's why I can't play it for you
I am not a resentful man. No, I am not a resentful man. No, I am not a resentful man. But I did it anyway.
And just like that, the hook dropped out of me. No, I am not a resentful man. And I stopped. I looked back out the window at the snow, and it was still going. You know, I knew right then and there that I would remember nothing else that happened that night. But for the first time in my life, it didn't bother me. I didn't care. I was finally free. Or at least I felt free. And it's effectively the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah!